Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
So, let's talk a little bit about this new book. I've been able to skim through it. Of course, there's a lot to read here, a lot of information. And I have to say, for me, it's a lot of the work that we talk about here all compiled into a book. So I'm very grateful that Betsy has written this. For those of you that don't know who Betsy is, of course, she has been on the show several times over the last 7 years, I believe. She's been coming on. She is an Earth Mysteries investigator. She is also a very well-known, gifted international psychic, considered one of the best in her field. She's a paranormal researcher. She herself is an experiencer and contactee with UFO encounters and extraterrestrial life forms. She studies and investigates ancient aliens, ancient archaeological sites, field investigations into the cattle mutilations. She has studied with under Indigenous spiritual leaders. And she is actually the step niece of William Blatty, the author of The Exorcist, which I actually watched that movie for the first time in 20 years for Halloween. So I did think of you, Betsy. Anyway, she has been on many, many shows, including George Norrie's show as well. She does have her Earth News blog at BetseyLewis.com. So welcome back to the show, Betsy. Thank you for coming and joining us today. Oh, we lost your audio, Betsy.
Here. Oh,
there
we
you
are. Sorry about that. Oh, it's great to be back on your show again. I just love your show, and you do such great things out there, Bernard. You are really a go-getter and such a spiritual person. So thank you. You're making some big changes in the world, and that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you so much for that. And for those of you that are watching, you'll see that we are streaming Betsy's camera live. I haven't done that in a while, but Betsy knows her technology, so we get the luck of seeing her beautiful face for those of you that are watching live video.
Thank you. I get to be your guinea pig, right?
Yes, you're my test subject, returning to some live video feed. So, Betsy, again, this is probably one of my favorite topics. When I started doing this work, publicly, for lack of a better term, when I started doing this work publicly, there was the whole starseed movement, and we started the Global Illumination Council with those of us that were waking up to the idea that perhaps we were from, maybe incarnated in a human body, from another world or another dimension, and still many people today feel that they are starseeds. So in doing that, I've, of course, researched many of the indigenous beliefs and cultures and traditions dealing with the star beings. Mm-hmm. So what was it for you that drew you and inspired you to take the time to write this fascinating book?
Well, I've had my own experiences, and it started when I was 8 months old with my parents on a lonely road. It was kind of like the Betty and Barney Hill case when they were abducted in 1961 on a lonely road in New Hampshire. And of course, I didn't know that we were abducted until my uncle, years later, asked if I had heard the story where, they heard this horrendous roar that shook the car. They didn't see anything around. They thought a plane was going to crash on them. And there was no plane when they got out. They got outside, looked around, stars out, no cars around, no trucks, no nothing. And he said, did they tell you they lost 2 hours in time they couldn't account for? And I said, whoa, wait a minute, they didn't tell me that. So years later, in the 80s, I was regressed. Well, my mother and I were regressed by Anne Druffel, who became a very famous author for her Tujunga Canyon contacts. She investigated a lot of people that were abducted in Tujunga Canyon, California. So she regressed us both, and we told that something really strange happened to us. She felt that I was going to be abducted, and my viewpoint was that we were abducted by these gray aliens. So that was my first encounter. My second one was when I was 7 years old, and I was followed home from elementary school in southern Idaho, and I was frightened, so frightened by this huge thing in the sky that kept getting larger and smaller. It would increase, decrease in size, and it was following me. It seemed like it was following me. And shortly after that, I started having these dreams, these lucid, recurring dreams of earth changes. And I believe we're in these earth changes right now. We're starting to see all these crazy things, the sinkholes. We're seeing great big tears in the earth, like in Kenya. It happened in Teton not too long ago. We're hearing these mysterious booms that are heard all over the world, and nobody knows what they are. But it seems like they're connected to deep earth movement. And we've had volcanoes erupting all over the world with Kilauea. We've seen the wildfires, which I've been predicting the last few years that it's going to get worse. We're all going to be affected by these earth changes. And I just want people to buckle up, get prepared, because all of us are going to be affected in some way. And it's part of what I call the evolution, a spiritual evolution that's going on. And I think Mother Earth is forcing us to change. We're just not changing. We're not honoring Earth. We're not being connected. We're so out of balance. Everything seems to be out of balance right now. And that's what I want people to start connecting, and like the Indigenous people, because that's something we need to get back to. We've forgotten our true nature and who we are and how we're connected to everything. Everything has a consciousness and sentient, and most people don't think that. I see children that are tearing down branches from trees. Right. I almost feel that maybe I wish trees could talk, like in The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy, the scarecrow or something, takes an apple and the tree slaps it, slaps the scarecrow. But, it's so true. We've got to get back to nature again and understanding that Mother Earth is real. She's a consciousness. Everything is. And we're related to everything, to the sun, the moon, the stars. And of course, we do have star beings here. This is the Indigenous people all over the world have been talking with the star beings, and they're telling us, get prepared, that we're going from the fourth world into the fifth world. So there's, and I think, don't you feel that, Bernard, that something is happening to our world right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for bringing this all up the way that you did, because it really, we see, especially with the media, I don't even want to get into that, but I will say that with the media, we're only focusing on a couple of things, but the reality of it is there are so many, whether you want to call them paranormal, unexplainable occurrences happening. I mean, I know. Just the other day, 2 or 3 days ago, the Irish Air Force saw a bunch of UFOs over Ireland.
Right.
And
yes.
And not only that, but we're seeing all these these experiences, whether we want to call them earth changes, whether we want to call them conspiracy or depopulation or UFO, and how they're all connected. All of these people around the world having UFO experiences, all these people around the world having spiritual awakenings, all these people around the world that are really feeling something, but they're not separate. And I think that's what I like that you're saying, is that we must get back and understand this. We're all connected, and all of these experiences are connected to this time of our growth and history.
Right, right. I remember when I was in 6th grade, an astronomer came to our school, and I asked him, I stood up and I said, are there other beings out there? Are there, any life out there? And he told me no. He gave me a flat no. And I thought, is he crazy? As big, even then I knew that the cosmos is so enormous, and it's still growing out there. Just think of it, infinity. There's no end out there, that there has to be life out there like us, intelligent life. And I think that life, part of that, they say between 15 to maybe 54 different species of aliens are watching us. Some of them are benevolent, some of them are malevolent.
Yeah.
Some of them think of us as, they just watch us. Some of them think of us as, mice to be experimented on. So there's many different types here. I think there's a lot of good beings out there that are helping us. And I think there's kind of a war against some of these malevolent beings out there.
Yes, here. And we hear so much of that, especially doing the work that I do. We hear of, well, let's say the reptilian races, how they're using us and this is what really frustrates me, is we hear of these quote-unquote reptilian, alien, malevolent species and races out there that are literally eating our energy and utilizing our fear as a form of food for them. But yet we keep falling for the fear. We keep falling for the outrage. We keep doing the divisiveness. But yet the ones that are screaming, the reptilians are eating our energy, are the ones that are creating divisiveness and fear. So it's like, what is going on?
And I have a theory about these reptilians. I know it sounds crazy, and I wrote about it in my Ancient Serpent Gods book. And last year I talked I was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, and he was amazed by it. He read the book, he asked for a copy of it, he read it, and he just praised it. He said it's an amazing book. But I have this theory that the dinosaurs, not all the dinosaurs died off, and an intelligent form of dinosaurs, and dinosaurs were intelligent. They now scientists say that they weren't slow moving, they were intelligent. Some of them were mammals, but I believe that because they had over 200 million years to evolve, that a species did evolve, went underground, and became the reptilians that are so far advanced. And I think that they've had a lot of experiments where people have vanished all over the world. And according to John Lear, who talked to Art Bell before he died, I think that was in 2003, they had a conversation about the reptilians. And he said that our military has actually killed people to stop them from talking about what's going on in our world. And these reptilians, I think they made some kind of deal that, they could experiment on us, and it was for technology, for higher technology.
Yeah, so I've heard the same thing, yeah.
Right.
I can't help but think of my childhood television show, Land of the Lost, and I think they were called the Skeksis, and they were these reptilian people that lived underground in the TV show, and they were the evil bad ones that were trying to kill the humans.
Yeah.
But it's funny how everything overlaps, between entertainment and what may or may not be happening out there, but who knows? I mean, there's so much of the military and the government does hide from us. That's obvious. We have about 7 minutes left in this segment, but I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about perhaps what some of the indigenous cultures around the world talk about. I mean, for example,
Okay.
the Hopis speak of what is it, the Star People or Sky
Yeah,
Father?
they talk about. Yeah,
And I
and they
know
also
that's throughout.
talk
It's
about the ant
throughout.
people. Yeah, ant people. They have a legend about the ant people that came up from underneath the ground and helped them when they needed help, ages ago. And these ant people were benevolent, not malevolent,
Right.
evil. So maybe some of these reptilians are good. Some of them are bad. Kind of like us humans.
Oh yeah.
We've got the good and the bad out there.
Now, is it fair to say that a majority of I mean, from my understanding, it seems like a majority of the indigenous cultures around the world, in one form or another, have stories or mythology based on star beings or.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, all over the world, and serpent beings too.
Oh yeah.
Every culture around the world, every ancient culture has myths. There's statues, there's cave drawings, there's just all kind of evidence of serpent gods. Now, who were these serpent gods? They're everywhere. The Chinese had the dragon. Um, it just goes on, and that can't be a coincidence. They weren't worshiping a stupid snake that crawls on the ground. Obviously, these serpents were intelligent, and they taught them things, and helped them build, I think, some of these megalithic structures around the world.
I mean, yes, we look at geez, I can't remember what they're called. The glyphs that are like miles long, that can only
Mhm.
be seen from the sky. I forgot we had a Brian Forster talked about that.
Geoglyphs? Yeah, geoglyphs, huh?
I forgot what the name of the area is, but I have a horrible memory at this age. But
Oh, is that the Nazca plains?
yeah, it's
Are
the
you?
Nazca.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay. Yeah,
lots of
right.
interesting stuff there, and it's got to mean something. I mean, it has to mean something. We
Mhm.
can't deny the fact that when you have so many people pointing and talking about and sharing stories on that, and again, moving here to the present, we're dealing with people that are feeling it. I
Mhm.
myself have had not only contact, but have spoken to these so-called transdimensional beings that come from another area of this, but I save that for the conferences, people. So you have to come to the conference to hear me talk about it. But
Well, there's many dimensions. We think that our world is the only dimension, but there's so many dimensions to our world. And, it's really interesting that people that have had near-death experiences talk about seeing aliens on the other side. Now, isn't that interesting? Because I think they can be dimensional. There's stories of the Greys going through walls, aliens going through walls. Nothing material seems to bother them. They can move within our space, our time and space, as if it didn't exist. So they're so advanced,
and
I just
exactly that's it.
boggles
It's
my
not
mind.
it. People have this idea that it's supernatural or whatnot. It's just
Mhm.
it's superior technology. I feel just like
It
when we're
is.
talking about
Yeah.
perhaps even when I do shows on magic or witchcraft or anything, it's just superior
Hmm.
technology that we just haven't quite understood yet. And
Yeah.
it is possible. I mean, it's absolutely possible.
I think a lot of these things that we're seeing in the sky are actually holographic images. And I think we're going to see a lot more of these things, and we're not going to know what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about that. And we're going to talk more about that when we return. We're going to
Okay.
go off on a commercial break here for just a minute or two. And when we come back, we'll continue our talk with Betsey Lewis. We'll be right back.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Will you fight?
Opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and
With that being said, let's talk about the glowing bird that was recently photographed over Teton National Park near Yellowstone. You felt that this might be the phoenix.
Yes. And a lot of people, Native Americans, thought so too, because they have their legends of the Thunderbird, but it's kind of interesting that the phoenix goes back thousands of years in Egypt mythology, way back. Just about every civilization has had a major bird that represented death and rebirth, and the phoenix. It's kind of interesting that a woman called Mary Summer Rain, she wrote a book, a series of books about her Indigenous mentor, No Eyes. And this was back in 1983 that she wrote the book, and it took about 3 or 4 years before it was actually published. But the predictions in there are so much like what I've been seeing through the years about the noises from Earth, the booms that are being heard. She talked about that. I mean, these things weren't happening. She said that there would be incredible winds around the world, just suddenly winds just out of nowhere. She said that there would be huge tears in the world. And that's what we're seeing. Like in Kenya, that great big fault that opened up, great big fissure that opened up, and they said someday that Kenya, that part of the world, is just going to tear apart from Africa. She also talked about sinkholes. We're seeing that because we're depleting everything from Mother Earth right now. We're taking out the uranium, we're taking out the oil, we're taking out the gas. It's like, the Earth is like an orange. And when you start taking out all the juice from the orange, what do you have?
Yes,
Everything starts collapsing on itself. And the Earth, these things are put into the Earth for a reason. And many native people, even Australian Aboriginals, have legends about when they came to Earth millions of years ago, that the Earth was out of balance, the grid was out of balance. And so they had to balance the grid. And they said, now, because we're taking out all these things, the precious stones, the uranium, that our Earth is out of balance again, and this is going to cause all these major Earth changes. And that's what we're seeing right now. Major things are starting to happen. And, the warnings, I always believe there's warnings. There's always signs and warnings before major earthquakes, before all these things happen. And I think people have to start trusting their intuition more. That it's indigenous to us. We had to survive for millions of years. And of course, we had to trust that intuition. We didn't have newscasters at that time to tell us that there's going to be a huge hurricane. That's how humans survived, using their intuition. So we've got to go back to that again. And we are going to see these things. I've dreamed of them over and over. I was shown when I was 7 years old, the huge winds. I was shown huge waves coming in, storm surges, tsunamis. I was shown volcanoes erupting. I was with a group of people trying to escape volcanoes erupting. I was 7 years old and there was nothing like that going on. Where these dreams came from, and I think it has to do with the star beings, and they were actually showing me these things before they happened.
I have to agree with you. I myself have had similar dreams growing up, and quite honestly, it wasn't until recently that how shall we say, those dreams of a dead world, or I remember dreams of like living through like a nuclear disaster. I've had dreams of people gathering under trees for safety after we lost all of our civilization and whatnot. They seem to have calmed down, and I wonder the same thing what you're saying. Well, are the star beings trying to give us a warning as to a possible timeline? Because we have to think about time and timelines when we're talking about all this as well.
Right.
And could we have circumvented a nasty timeline a few years ago, only to perhaps seem to be veering back to it now? Unfortunately, because we're seeing all of these EPA regulations being lifted. We're seeing more fracking. Now that they found that ocean of frozen water in the earth, and they're going to try to extract that as well.
Sure. I know. What are they thinking? We can't keep taking all these things from the earth. And, I think if we look at Mars, I think there was a great civilization that existed there. There's too many photos that NASA captured, and they don't want us to really know about it. And they try and cover it up, Photoshop it or whatever. But I think Mars is really something for us to think about, that a great civilization was once there and died there. Maybe they destroyed their own planet, and we're headed that way. I'm sorry to tell you that, everybody. We've got to wake up here. We don't have a lot of time left. Our oceans are dying. We've got plastics in our oceans, and plastic takes hundreds of years to break down. We've got pesticides that are destroying, causing what they call bleaching of the coral. Fish are dying. We're seeing this all over the world. Sometimes thousands of fish wash up. You had the red tide.
Red tide in Florida, and now, as of I believe it was yesterday, they reported now birds are falling out of the sky because they're breathing in the red tide.
Oh, jeez.
And that is all in the Gulf, where we had that BP oil spill where they spayed the millions of gallons of Corexit all into the ocean, which I'm sure was not very helpful to the red tide.
Was that not insanity? Why? What were they thinking?
Absolutely. You know, I got, not to throw out any more paranoid conspiracy theories, but I saw a movie the other day, which I've never even heard of. It just popped up on my Amazon Prime feed. It was Charlie Sheen, of all people, back in the 90s, called The Arrival or The Arrived or something. And it turned out that in the movie, it was the aliens were already here and that they were doing all of this to terraform the earth for their beings, for their, their use.
That. Oh my
I was like,
goodness.
okay, let's throw another conspiracy out there now for me to worry and ponder about. They're already here. They're just destroying the planet to terraform it for themselves,
Well, you know what I've thought with these chemtrails, and I don't care what these naysayers say, that chemtrails are only contrails. I have watched the skies since I was very young, and I know jets put out contrails that dissipate its water vapor up there, and how they could change during the 90s so much, and the crisscrossing, and you watch them fan out across the whole sky. I watched a video, a YouTube video, and I have that posted on my Earth News website. And this scientist took samples of where I think it was in California, of the earth and the ground, and it's full of aluminum. And he said that's causing the trees to die. We're seeing trees die all over the world now.
Yeah.
I think it's causing them to be flammable. I think that's why these wildfires now, this is my theory, and I think these clouds are helping warm the earth, not cool it. If they think they're doing that, I think there's a lot of warming, and we keep hearing about the glaciers melting. It was the warmest summer we've ever had, record-breaking temperatures. There's something going on, and if they're dumping all this stuff into the ground and on us, and we're drinking the water, it's going into everything. And I keep reading the bees are dying, the earthworms that we need for the ground to plant things are dying. All these things are dying. Insects are dying all over the world.
And it's all in the name of profit. It's so called in the name of profit, but is there an ulterior motive again? Do we wonder? I mean, we look at what happened in Brazil now. They've got this new right-wing president who wants to allow drilling in the rainforest and destroy the rainforest, which is the lungs of the earth. Giving mineral rights to corporations to dig up the tropical rainforest. It's just like blatant destruction of the planet. And what is the motivation? And what's it going to take for us to learn our lesson? Unfortunately, and that is probably the number one cause of the benevolent star beings to keep visiting and sending these little downloads. I feel we all seem to be getting them. We all seem to be getting them.
Yeah, right. I spent time in Belize during the 90s, and I was crying because they were burning off all these rainforests down there, so they could plant orange trees. They want to survive too, but they were clear cutting all these trees that are valuable. I mean, there's some amazing plants, medicinal things down there in the plants, and here they go burning everything. And I think many of these things that could cure humans of so many diseases are in the rainforest. And if we destroy the rainforest, it's crazy.
Yeah, it destroys our ability to evolve medically, at least. And I mean, we hear it. We've seen the movies. We've read the books. I mean, Native Indigenous elders have been talking about this for centuries.
Yes.
I mean, we even look at the myth of the Rainbow Tribe coming back to save the earth from the brink. And,
right.
How many of us are a part of that, and how many of us are going to actually do the work to help us with that? And with that being said, let's dive into something more controversial, is the idea of alien-human hybrids. And could they be the Rainbow Tribe? Are these the star seeds that we talk about? What is your take and your opinion on that?
I think there's many out there with alien DNA, and a lot of them claim that because they have the ORH negative blood, that is alien. That shows that they have alien blood. And what one such person who's on YouTube, you can go to this YouTube and just put Lisa alien hybrid in there and watch her story. And she's from Toronto, up in that area. She's francophone, which means she only speaks French, but she had an interpreter there, a good friend of hers. And he told the story of her. And do we have enough time for this story?
Yes, we got about 10 more minutes.
Okay, good. But she's very strange looking. She's a very attractive blonde with really kind of strange blue eyes. She's like 6 foot tall, and she has the Rho negative blood. But she said that when she was born in 1978, she shouldn't have been there. Her mother knew she was pregnant and went to a doctor all the time, and everything was fine. And then one day she felt a little tired. She had other children downstairs that were playing, and all of a sudden she felt she couldn't move. She was paralyzed. And suddenly she sees these gray aliens come through the wall, and they're standing over her. She can just barely move her head, and she can hear them in her head, telepathically. And one says to her, "Is she ready?" And the other one says, "Yes, she's ready." So she kept asking them in her head, "Who are you? What do you want? Why are you here?" And then they went through the wall and disappeared. And then, 9 months later, she was in the hospital, and her baby is born, but it's a boy. And the doctor leaves. Everything looked fine. And the nurse goes running out into the hallway and says, "Doctor, there's another baby." And he says, "No, that's impossible. There's no other baby." And so he comes back and delivers her. And what's really amazing is she shouldn't have been there, but she's had some really strange things, and so has her mother. Her mother also said that a few years later she had another visitation from aliens, but they weren't the common gray aliens, and it was a tall looking human with red hair. And he took her to a place that looked like a pharmacy. And she asked him, "What is this place? Why am I here?" And he said, "This is all the medicine that would cure humans, but I'm not supposed to give it to you because humans were not supposed to be sick." And she said that he had this white coat on, and he had the insignia, the serpent insignia of the medical people.
The caduceus.
And right. And she wondered about that, why. But Lisa is very telepathic. Her mother, I believe, is ORH negative. Her daughter is RH negative. And I know from another story that I interviewed called the Mojave Incident that Ron Felber wrote about. He interviewed these 2 people that were abducted in the Mojave in 1989, and they thought that their daughter, that was born shortly after this incident in the Mojave, was actually part alien. And she also has the ORH negative blood, and that blood is a little bit different. It has some properties that if a woman gets pregnant with a man that isn't RH negative, they have to get a shot or some kind of thing that stops it, because there's incompatibilities with this RH negative blood. So there you have it. It's pretty interesting.
I'd say so. And for me, not only is it the idea of alien human hybrids, it's not only physical. I also believe it's spiritual. I firmly believe that there may be, for lack of a better term, transdimensional extraterrestrial souls incarnating in human bodies.
Yes. Yes.
Whether you want to call that the starseed or not, I myself have been told by my guides I have one within me as well, and it's just very, very overwhelming and very exciting at the same time, because of the fact that, what is the responsibility now for these people, whether they're physical or spiritual hybrid?
Right.
Are we here to save the planet? Is it our duty now? to help the
I
human
think it
race,
is.
or is the human race going to go the way of the dinosaur? Are we, I mean, we've been around for what, 2 million years, if that, and dinosaurs were around for what, 200
Right.
million years before us.
Uh-huh.
Are we
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
make it? And are the star beings going to be the ones to help us? And will we let them? I believe is the question. We always hear how we've been asking for help, and we always hear how they won't help us because of free will, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, right.
But I think it's a matter of allowing it. Sometimes we need to allow someone to help us. Absolutely.
Have you heard about all these strange things that have happened to, anything that we're sending up, into outer space, like the rover that's on Mars it just stopped quitting. It just quit all of a sudden. And then what was that? We sent one of our astronauts up and with a Russian, and they had to bail out because of some malfunction. There's just been some really weird things, and it's like we're being told, we don't want you in outer space yet. You have to evolve a little bit more. The Galactic Federation, if there is one out there, is saying, okay, you're too violent. And that's what I've read in some of the things that people have been told that have been abducted, that we're just too violent, and they don't want us out there.
I've heard that the quarantine epidemic, that we've been quarantined.
Right. Yes, we have. Yeah.
They do not want us to interact with them. And it really is, it's frustrating when we see, I mean, for example, I see, I'm a Star Trek fan, yes, I admit it. I like the new one. I think it's really good. And, where we see how evolved they are as a species. With the human species, is so evolved that, every race gets along, not only within the human races, but within the intergalactic races. If we can't get along with each other here, race to race, religion to religion, what makes us think we're going to get along with other species and other races out there?
Exactly. How can we? We haven't. We just haven't done enough for our own species. We have people that are starving to death out there, homeless. We see what the genocide that's going on in the Mideast and the violence, and it's gone on and on. What do we need? Do we need something that's really horrendous? Do we need a great big shift of the Earth's axis to kind of cleanse everything? That's what the Native Americans have been told by the star beings, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. Because we need that cleansing right now. With
unfortunately,
7.8 billion people on the earth, and what we're doing, we're just using up all our natural resources, and we can't continue on this way. We've got to figure out another way. Maybe we need to go to another planet. I don't know, something like that.
I don't think they'll let us.
Bernard, I don't think they will. They don't want us out there. No.
Not well. I guess to theorize here that it's very interesting how all of the negative behavioral characteristics of humanity happen to be that which we would deem of the reptilian mind.
Yes.
Our lower form, our conquer and divide, our me, our greediness, our warlike tendencies, are everything that have been associated scientifically with the reptilian aspect of our brain. And it's just another aha. Can we move beyond the reptilian within us? It might be the question.
And I wrote about that we really have very little in common with the ape. And I don't think we evolved from apes. I don't believe that at all. We are so different. And once you read about all these different things and if we did evolve from apes, where there's still apes, the great apes, we're talking about, not little monkeys, we're talking about gorillas.
Right.
So there shouldn't be gorillas if we evolved from them. They shouldn't exist right now.
Yeah, I think evolution might be too strong of a term. Maybe we stemmed from them, our DNA. I don't know, but
yeah.
And as well, then we're moving into intelligent design, and as we move into intelligent design, we have to take into consideration there must be a superior technological race out there.
Sure.
I watched a very interesting documentary many years ago about how the I don't know if it's a genome or something, how it was made, and it looks like a crank tiny microscopic crank that connected the DNA to make it start working. I was like, somebody had to engineer that, perhaps. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
But again,
Yeah.
If we're going to talk intelligent design, then there must be something more evolved than us, technologically speaking. Not getting into the mythology of the bearded guy in the sky, of course.
Right.
I don't think he had a beard.
No.
I think she was an energy being.
I think so too. I agree. I do. So yeah, there's so much that we don't know out there, and certainly, it's just mind-boggling what all the mysteries out there, and there's still so many to uncover out there. We've just barely put a dent in all the mysteries of our world. The cattle mutilations, the things that are in the ocean. We keep seeing UFOs that dive into the ocean and come out.
So, Betsy, we're out of time. Believe it or not, we got about a minute left. I caught up on me. I wanted to give you an opportunity to let everybody know where to find your book.
Okay. They can go to my website, betseylewis.com, and Betsy's spelled a little bit different. It's Betsey. Lewis is Lewis. My books are on there. They're on Amazon and all internet bookstores. And I've also got an Earth News blog that I do that I have a lot of people that go to it every day. And I put predictions on there. I put conspiracy theories. I put about UFO reports, anything I can find that's really of interest. I try and filter them out, but thank you, Bernard. This has been great. I wish you all the best. I know you've got some exciting things coming up.
Yeah.
And,
all right. Well, thank you so much, Betsy, and thank you, everyone, for watching today. We will be back next Tuesday. I have another wonderful guest. I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I can't remember, but we've got a great talk coming for you next week as well. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.